This 53-year-old guy has somehow managed to age backwards and get in better shape in his 50s than he was in his 20s without the use of HGH, steroids, TRT, peptides, or any of the other crazy fringe supplements that you see on the internet. This is the story of my client, Ken. Ken and I met a couple years ago when he was struggling to get below 20% body fat. He had a crazy demanding schedule at work as a senior finance manager. He has 3 kids. He's been married for over 20 years, likes to travel, loves to eat, especially Korean barbecue. But ultimately, he just couldn't find a plan that made sense that allowed him to actually step into the version of himself that he so desperately wanted to become. So on today's video, I'm gonna map out the entire plan that Ken followed to actually age backwards, to get better as he got older, as he reached the critical age of 50 and beyond, to where he now looks and feels better than he did in his 20s. Ken started around 23% body fat, and we've been able to chisel him down to about 7 or 8% body fat, and actually allow him to stay between 8 and 11% body fat year round. This while only training 3 to 4 times a week, not doing any scheduled cardio outside of his daily activity, and enjoy the foods he loves, especially when he travels. Now, there's other things that we did too to actually help him get healthier as he got older so that he could actually get his blood work done, go see his doctor, and get the good news that he's getting better as he gets older. This is exactly why when guys come to my program, the first thing we do is we rewire their internal systems. We have to change the programming and the software that you're currently operating on from a mental standpoint. See, so many of us start to speak things into existence. You know, we talk about, oh, I'm too old to get in shape, or my body doesn't work the way it used to, or I can't lose fat as easily as I could when I was in my 20s. Now, some of this might have some truth to it, but it's not a pass, it's not an excuse to not chase the next level, because there's always ways to get better as we get older. Think about it. Getting older comes with more wisdom, it comes with more experience, it comes with more emotional stability, and hopefully maturity to go along with it. So the biggest thing that we needed to do with Ken when we started in our program is we needed to rewire his mindset. It was no longer an all or nothing type of approach. Ken had played the game of trying to do extreme diets, hardcore workout programs, going all in, as they say, where every single day was centered around his health and fitness. And I challenged him on that whole thought. I said, well, first of all, how is that working out for you? And the answer was pretty clear. He's like, well, I'm gaining weight every single year. I hate the way I look in the mirror. And ultimately, I'm just not happy with my body. You might be feeling the same exact way as you watch this video. And if that's the case, I highly recommend you take a look at the links in the description where we have some starting points for you. And we also have some opportunities to jump into a very hands-on coaching experience. Now, this is exactly why we have to start with the mindset part of fitness, because our brains ultimately direct what our bodies do. Now, don't worry, I'm going to talk a lot about what we actually did in terms of workouts, diet, and some of the secret sauce that we put into the true transformation experience. But we got to get the brain to wire the right way first. We have to start thinking like the person that we're becoming. So I challenged Ken on the thought that what if it was possible to do half of what you've been doing and get twice as good of a result? Now, of course, you have to see it to believe it. And this is where our motivation formula comes into play. And I'm going to give this one to you. And I'm going to give this one to you because I know it's going to help you understand this whole concept of motivation. And I'm also going to talk to you about discipline and how it influences desire and how those two need to be paired up. Now, inside of our program, besides rewiring our software, we have to understand why we're not motivated. And it really comes down to a simple equation. Most people think, when I'm motivated, then I'll take action. But the problem is, I'm not motivated, so therefore I don't do the right things. Well, that's like saying, when I feel better, I'm gonna go to the hospital. Or when I'm in shape, I'm gonna go to the gym. It just doesn't make sense. So we have to flip that formula on its head. Action has to be the first thing that we do. So we need to have tiny, and I mean tiny, small actions that lead to, not motivation, leads to a result. Now that result could be something as simple as, man, that 10-minute walk that I went on to do more cardio made me feel good. Now I feel, first of all, like I can actually do this, which is what I call self-belief, right? You have to believe in the process. Now, self-belief is what leads to more motivation. Because when I actually truly believe that I can do something, then I'm more likely to do it, especially when it's easy. I saw it in action, right? I took an action, I got a result, which led to more self-belief, which then leads to more motivation. But we have to also understand that we're not always going to be motivated. There's going to be many days, as I'm famous for saying, where I don't feel like working out, so I'm going to go work out. This has to be part of our mental reprogramming that takes place before, or at least as we're getting the nuts and bolts in place when it comes to our fitness. So let's talk about fitness. When people join our True Transformation program, or they take one of our challenges, or they jump into one of our starting points, which you could check out in the description below, it's important for us to build a framework that lasts for a long time. It's easy when you're highly motivated, right? You took an action, you invested in a program, and now you're rearing it ready to go, and you want that result really quick. So you have that emotional high that's taking place, and you say, all right, I'm gonna go all in. I'm gonna work out every day, I'm gonna do cardio every day, I'm gonna eat perfect, I'm gonna do it all because I want that result really, really quick. You think if I just go extreme for a short period of time, I'm gonna get extreme results. Now, you might get better results, but what I highly suggest you think about is what's gonna happen when you burn out. What's gonna happen a month from now when you can't sustain it and you're back to square one? How are you gonna feel then? Well, your self-belief, how are you gonna feel then? Well, your self-belief is going to take a massive hit and your motivation is gonna go down with it. So the first thing we did with Ken is we actually built out a training program that accommodated his lifestyle, not just for when he's at home, but for when he travels with his family and he goes to Disney World with his kids and him and his wife travel around the United States or even overseas, having fun, living life. Does he have a workout program that can be sustainable while he's doing all the things he enjoys? So if you're training 7 days a week and you have to have the fanciest gym on earth, all the craziest equipment, well, when you don't have those things, you're gonna feel a little bit out of sorts and you might be less likely to go do it. You might be less likely to be motivated to do it because you don't feel like you can. You're out of town, it's not convenient. So we had to build a plan that made sense for him. For Ken, it was 4 days a week of training on most weeks. Typically it was an upper body, lower body, then upper body, lower body split. Now, I can tell you right now, this won't work for everybody. This is why it's so important to have something built for you. You may only need to train twice a week. You may only need to train 4 times a week or 3 times a week. Sometimes, in certain cases, 5 days a week makes sense, more from a mental standpoint, just to keep momentum going. But Ken is a type A personality. He's going to do what he sets out to do. The problem was he just couldn't keep up with the fact that he had so much going on in his life. Fitness was just taking over. He needed something to be more sustainable. So we built a 4-day-a-week training program. Now, this is where things get interesting because most people think that you need to do a lot of cardio to get lean, especially for my guys out there who are trying to fight the aging process. And I'm gonna tell you, you're right. Cardio is very, very important. You need to take care of your heart health. You need to make sure your cardiovascular system is on point. Without heart health, man, you are going to be in trouble. You need to make sure you don't just look good, but internally things are dialed in. So with Ken, we established a couple things. Number one, a daily activity standard. All right, this basically comes down to how much Ken moves throughout the day. Instead of trying to do all his cardio in one shot, we broke it up throughout the day. So he would walk around his office a little bit. He'd take a walk at night after dinner. He would just try to be more proactive when it came to moving more. But as he got leaner, we started to incorporate a little bit more of the higher intensity cardio just to get his heart rate into that zone 2, zone 3 style of training to work on his VO2 max, which is also a really important factor when it comes to longevity and living a long time, and also just to make sure he was keeping his heart health in check. Now, cardio isn't just about heart health. It's also about burning calories. We don't want to sit around all day because then we have to rely heavily on our diet, which of course, I'm going to share with you some of Ken's anti-aging diet secrets that helped him get super ripped. But if all we're doing is relying on the diet to be in a calorie deficit, well, then we're kind of missing half the equation. Of course, we do need to control our calories, but we also need to move more so that we can burn off the calories that we're eating more effectively. So we don't have to starve ourselves when it comes to nutrition. Someone like Ken who loves food, the last thing I want to do is rely exclusively on a low-calorie diet in order to burn fat. We wanted to incorporate higher activity levels along with controlling his calories strategically, which we'll talk about next. So 2 fronts. One, heart health, the other, burning calories, got knocked out with a strategic movement plan that Ken followed. Walking has been proven to be one of the healthiest things you can do. Check out places around the world called blue zones where people live an extraordinarily long period of time. I'm talking, well into their late 80s, early 90s, and even higher than that in some cases, without really giving up the quality of their life. One of the biggest habits that they have is movement. Movement is medicine. It's clarity. It's not just about burning calories and heart health. At the end of the day, it's about living a longer, healthier, high quality life. So one of the things we teach inside of our program, which I want to talk about now, is the nutrition game. Nutrition is arguably the hardest part for most people, and it's no different for someone like Ken, who just simply loves food and says, hey, I don't want to give up all my favorite foods just to chase abs, just to look like a Greek god, which he does, by the way. He looks young, healthy, energetic. But how do we do it without hating life in the process? So it came down to what I call the 3E system for food. So number one is it has to be easy. You can't look at your meal plan every day and go, how am I going to put all of this together? It's way too complicated. Second thing is it has to be enjoyable. So you actually have to like the foods that you have in your diet. And I'll talk about a very, very specific strategy that I employ, that Ken has employed, that I think just makes eating that much more enjoyable. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then, of course, there's the effectiveness of the diet. It could be the easiest, most enjoyable diet on planet Earth. But if it's not getting you results, then ultimately it's not the diet for you. Now, of course, all this has to be wrapped up in the sustainable box, right? We have to be able to see ourselves following this type of diet for a long period of time. If we can't see ourselves following this diet a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, not to say you have to be in a calorie deficit forever, but if you can't see yourself eating these type of foods or enjoying this type of diet for a long period of time, then we're in trouble, right? We're ultimately going to more than likely run into a situation where we have to find something new. So as we built Ken's diet, I wanted to ensure that he liked it, that he actually could see himself following this for a long period of time. This is what we do inside of our program. Everybody's going to get a different diet based off the foods they like, the number of meals they like to eat per day, where they like to eat, restaurants, how often they travel, what are their go-to travel food items. This is all the stuff we included in Ken's plan. One of the key things, though, that I always try to install in every person's program that I work with is the end of day treat. The daily delicious is what I call it. That's something that at the end of the day, is waiting for you. Now, of course, it's a calorie controlled, somewhat of a dessert style meal, something sweet, maybe a little salty too, that totally fits into your calories, allows you to hit the amount of food you need to eat for the day, but gives you a sense of enjoyment where you can actually go, man, I look forward to this every single day. And it's almost like the way to cap off my day at the end of the night. Now, sometimes you might have something like that in the middle of your day, but most of the time it works really well for guys who struggle with snacking at night, having cravings after dinner, and just kind of relieving some stress at the end of the day. I don't want there to be a situation where you feel like a prisoner in your diet. And that was the case with Ken. He had just followed all these super strict diets that made things way too complicated. And so we mapped out the easy, enjoyable, effective nutrition plan. Kept things really simple, right? We mapped out strategically, of course, how much protein he really needed to get the result that he wanted. And then what days should he be higher calories? What days should he be lower calories? And then how do we actually do this on vacation? Because Ken liked to travel. And when you like to travel, there's situations you're going to run into where you need to have options. You need to know how to navigate this whole outside of your norm experience. So we did that, right? One of the key things we did there too is we had menu items that Ken knew he could choose pretty much anywhere that he actually enjoyed eating, so that he could have his calories dialed in, his protein dialed in, and all of those things that are important when it comes to nutrition. Now, I know I'm making it sound easy, but at the end of the day, all this stuff can be very simple. What most of the time happens is guys, especially like Ken, who are super successful, have families, have all this stuff going on, they struggle with finding something simple because they're so used to the complicated. They're so used to things being hard in their life. Building a strong business is hard. Building a strong career is hard. Being a great father, being a great husband, that's not easy. Fitness doesn't have to be this crazy challenging thing. It can actually be enjoyable. It can be rather simple. And yeah, there's some things you might have to sacrifice here and there, but when you really take a look at the grand scheme of things, you'll realize that it doesn't have to be torture. And that was another mindset piece that I wanted to help Ken wrap his head around. Now, Ken's 53. I can only pray I look like that when I'm 53. So if you're out there and you're watching this and you're like, man, my time is come and gone. I'm no longer the young 20 guy who, 20 something guy who can get ripped and just stay lean. And maybe you've never been lean and you're thinking it's too late for me. Well, I hope Ken is an example of what is possible if you actually have the right plan built specifically for you. Now, check this out. You don't necessarily have to jump right into our coaching program to get these kind of results. We have a challenge that you can check out below. It's called the Get Abs 2-Week Challenge. It's something that I've worked really hard to put together to make sure you have all the tools necessary to kickstart the process of getting lean, not just for a day at the beach, but literally for the rest of your life. If you want to be the total package, someone who walks around with the family success, the financial success, and the body to match, my system works, and it works specifically for that guy. But I know you're watching this thinking, I don't know if it's going to work for me. So I'm giving you an opportunity to try it out right now. You can check out the links below in the description. Or if you're just like, hey, I've watched enough, I know that I need something like this. I need hands-on coaching, community, accountability. I need someone to tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. Well, if you're looking for a coach who does all those things and a community to support the coaching experience, that's where the true transformation comes in. You can check out the link below. You can apply for the program and we can set up a time to chat, or I'll just send you some information so you can learn more about it and we can figure out if you're the right fit. In the meantime, I hope this video helps shed some light on how you can fight the aging process, look your best as you get older, and have people that have done it, and it gives you the peace of mind that it is possible. Use this inspiration, take action today, because remember, life moves fast. Make it count. I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.